Darkness filled the edge of the solar system, out past Pluto, where the sun was only a pale coin in the black sky. A cluster of human miners worked an icy rock called Kepler 92 drift. Their lives were routine, drilling, cutting, and sending back water and rare metals to the inner worlds. But that night was not routine. Inside the comms room, a single green light blinked on a dusty console. The console belonged to Ava Corrin, a rookie communications officer barely out of training. She had been told nothing unusual ever happened here. The colony had one low-power antenna, used mostly for weather reports and gossip. The green light blinked again, and a faint hiss whispered through her headphones. At first she thought it was static or solar interference. Then she froze. A voice, high, trembling almost like a child, murmured something in a language she had never heard. Another voice followed, broken and gasping. Then a pattern of 3 tones, pause, 3 tones, pause, 3 tones, like a desperate SOS. Ava adjusted the gain. The hiss became clearer. It was not human. The syllables were liquid and harsh, like stone scraping on ice. But in between the alien words, a single phrase repeated in broken galactic common: "Unstoppables, predator. Moving, Sol." Her heart hammered. She had read old HFY sci-fi stories about aliens calling humans predators. But this was no story. This was a real alien distress call, repeating on an encrypted channel. She looked around the empty comms room. The shift supervisor was off duty, asleep in his cabin. Protocol said she should log the signal and wait for higher clearance. But every instinct told her waiting was wrong. She pressed record. The screen filled with jagged waveforms and strange glyphs. The voices grew weaker, as if whoever sent them was dying. Then she heard a sound that made her skin crawl. A deep, wet roar in the background of the transmission. Something alive, something hunting. The signal cut out. Ava sat in silence, staring at the console. Her breath came fast. She thought of her brother on Mars, of the thousands of families living in fragile domes across the outer system. If what she'd heard was true, something was coming, something no one was ready for. She hesitated only a second, then opened a secure link and secretly forwarded the recording to an EarthNet address reserved for emergencies. Her message was simple: distress call, not human. Warning of a predator headed for Sol. Please verify. She hit send. Outside, beyond the hull, the stars burned cold and silent. The outer colonies react in less than a day. The recording spread through the hidden channels of the net. By the time Ava's superiors discovered what she had done, fragments of the alien distress call had already reached intelligence officers on Earth. Lunar series. Someone leaked it to the media, on freighters and stations. Rumors bloomed like mold. People gathered in mess halls to listen to the grainy audio, trying to decipher the alien syllables. Everyone agreed on one thing: the fear in the voices was unmistakable. Dockworker Raffi Tan on Titan Base whispered to his partner, "If an alien's scared, what chance do we have?" His partner replied, "Humans always survive. We've lived through everything." But his hands trembled as he said it. On Ganymede, a teacher played the clip for her students in a civics class. "This," she said, "is why we need unity." The children stared at the ceiling speakers, wide-eyed. One of them asked, "Is the monster coming here?" Governments tried to control the panic. The United Systems Authority issued a bland statement. "We are aware of a non-human transmission. It poses no immediate danger to citizens." But everyone could hear the unspoken tension in the official's voice. In back channels, military planners demanded analysis. Was the signal authentic? Was it a trap? Could it be a prelude to invasion? No one had answers. The only clear fact: the aliens who sent the message were terrified. Inside the refugee ship 2 days after the leak, a merchant vessel called Endeavour stumbled across a drifting ship near the orbit of Uranus. Its hull was scorched. No transponder responded. Against orders, the captain sent a boarding party. Inside, they found what was left of an alien crew. Their bodies were thin, grey-skinned, with 4 eyes and trembling hands. Some were dead, The survivors whispered in their own tongue and clawed at the humans, begging to be taken away. Ship logs recovered from the alien bridge confirmed part of the broadcast. The word Kh'rathi appeared over and over. The Kh'rathi were not a species the databases recognized. One log entry stood out. The aliens had written, "They are coming. They cannot be stopped. They will reach the third star in one cycle." The boarding party uploaded the files to Central Command. When Ava Karen saw the update on her console, she felt sick. This was no hoax. Governments argue, in the high towers of Geneva Orbital, ambassadors met behind sealed doors. Should humanity grant asylum to the aliens? Should the signal be ignored? Was it a false flag to lure human fleets into a trap? Admiral Rourke of the Earth Defense Fleet slammed his fist on the table. "We can't just sit here. If something is coming, we need to mobilize now." Senator Kwan from Mars Colonies shook her head. "You want war based on a ghost story? We don't even know what's out there." The president of the United Systems Authority tried to sound calm. "We will study the signal. We will prepare contingency plans." But as the debate dragged on, ordinary people began to act. Miners armed their transports. Merchants changed routes. Even small colonies built makeshift bunkers. Everyone sensed the same thing. Something was moving in the dark. The rumor of the Predator news feeds started calling the unknown enemy the Predator in capital letters. Some pundits mocked it. Others compared it to old Earth legends, dragons, demons, cosmic wolves. But the audio of the roar at the end of the distress call went viral. Millions of people listened to it on loop. The sound had a strange quality, deep, layered like a thunderstorm mixed with an animal's growl. Scientists argued over whether it was mechanical or biological. Conspiracy boards speculated that Earth governments had known about the Predator for years. Hashtags like Kh'rathi and "something is coming" trended across the net. Ava Karen avoided the feeds. She had become an unwitting symbol. Someone leaked her name. Some praised her bravery. Others called her reckless for sending the signal without clearance. Alone in her cabin on Kepler 92 drift, she replayed the transmission again and again, hearing the alien voice beg for help and the roar at the end. She wondered if she had doomed them all, or saved them. The stage's set days stretched into a week. More fragments of alien ships drifted into human-controlled space, all showing signs of violent attack. Hulls torn, escape pods empty, crews missing. Yet no one had seen the Predator itself, only its victims. The United Systems Authority quietly ordered military assets moved closer to the outer colonies. Drone factories on Luna shifted production to combat models. Asteroid miners reported new inspection ships hovering near their sites. In public, leaders spoke of calm and caution. In private, they whispered about evacuation plans for the inner planets. Ava received a coded message from an unknown source on EarthNet. "You did the right thing. Keep listening." Attached was a schematic of a new encryption key. She didn't know who had sent it. That night, alone in the comms room, she tuned the antenna to the new frequency. For hours, there was only static. Then, just before she gave up, a burst of alien symbols flashed across the screen, a warning or a countdown. She felt a chill crawl up her spine outside. The icy rock of Kepler 92 drift turned slowly under the pale light of the sun. In the distance, beyond the Kuiper Belt, something vast moved unseen. The camera, or narrator's voice, pulls back from Ava's tiny station to show the whole solar system. Small islands of light, scattered in an ocean of black. Somewhere out there, a force strong enough to terrify an alien race is heading straight for humanity. And humanity, as always, is about to be tested. A pale blue glow washed over the patrol ship ISS. Sentinel as it drifted between the orbits of Neptune and Pluto. For 3 days the crew had been chasing a faint emergency beacon that matched the alien distress call Ava Karen had forwarded to Earth. They expected to find wreckage. They did not expect to find survivors. Lieutenant Rourke stood on the bridge, arms crossed, staring at the shape on the view screen. It was a massive arc ship, torn open as if some giant claw had ripped its hull. Gas and ice streamed into space like a silver veil. No transponder, no shields, no power. Just a weak pulse from a single life pod. Radiation levels? Rourke asked. Low, replied the sensor officer. No weapons lock, but there's movement inside. Rourke's gut told him the same thing every crew member felt, but refused to say. This wasn't a rescue. It was a warning. The captain gave the order. Boarding Team Alpha, suit up. When the hatch hissed open, cold air rushed in. The corridors of the Ark ship were coated in frost. Walls were carved with strange symbols, curved and spiked like a language of claws. Blood, dark, almost black, floated in globules, drifting slowly. Then they found the survivors, thin, grey-skinned beings with 4 eyes crouched in the dark, shaking. When the humans approached, one alien leaped forward and seized a human arm, its claws trembling, its voice a dry rasp. Do not anger them. Do not anger them. The words echoed through the comms. Every human on the team went still. This was no hoax. This was the same species from the distress call, and whatever had hunted them was still out there. The survivors were transferred to the Sentinel's medbay. The aliens were emaciated and feverish, their skin marked with burns and deep gashes. One kept staring at the ceiling, muttering a word again and again. Kh'rathi. Another curled into a ball, eyes closed, as if waiting for death. The ship's doctor tried to treat them, but their physiology was strange. Heartbeats like drum rolls, blood that glimmered faintly blue. They recoiled from any sudden noise. Captain Ilara briefed the crew. We're taking them to Ceres Station for quarantine. Until then, no one provokes them. No loud voices, no sudden moves. Captain, Rourke said quietly, they're more afraid of us than of dying. You can see it. Good, Ilara answered. Fear keeps people alive. But when the aliens regained enough strength to speak, their fear shifted. They began whispering about the Kh'rathi in broken common. The Kh'rathi were not just hunters. They were destroyers, a culture built on conquest and extermination. They had wiped out dozens of worlds. No one had stopped them. They will come, one alien hissed, its 4 eyes fixed on Rourke. They will see you gave us shelter. Then they will come for you. Rourke felt a chill. He remembered the roar at the end of the transmission Ava had sent. Now he wondered if the Kh'rathi had already marked humanity for death. Reaction. Across the system, news of the survivors reached the net before the Sentinel even docked. Grainy images of the aliens, gaunt figures with shaking hands, flooded feeds on Earth, Mars, and Titan. The caption always the same. They begged us not to anger them. On Ceres Station, crowds gathered behind security cordons to catch a glimpse of the new arrivals. Some waved banners, protect the refugees. Others shouted, don't bring war to our doorstep. In the halls of power, the debate intensified. Should humanity hand over the aliens, if the Kh'rathi demanded it? Or should they take a stand? Admiral Rourke of the Earth Defense Fleet, no relation to the lieutenant, spoke at a closed session. We're being tested. If we turn these beings over, we show weakness. If we keep them, we paint a target on our backs. Either way, the Kh'rathi will come. Senator Kwan replied, then perhaps it's time to prepare for a fight. Humanity's not as weak as they think. A new phrase began trending on the net, to first contact with fear. People posted old HFY tales, imagining humans fighting back against impossible odds. For some, it was entertainment. For others, a promise. Back on the Sentinel, while officials argued, the crew of the Sentinel lived with the aliens day to day. One night, Lieutenant Rourke found one of them, the one who had grabbed his arm, staring at a star chart on the medbay wall. What are you looking for? Rourke asked softly. The alien pointed a trembling claw at a dark region beyond the Kuiper belt. Here, it whispered. This is where they wait. They will test you soon. Test us. They always test before they kill. Rourke swallowed hard. You think we'll lose? The alien's 4 eyes met his. You are predators. But you do not know how to be hunted. The Sentinel reached Ceres Station under heavy escort. Drones scanned the alien survivors. Media crews shouted questions. The aliens cowered, whispering the same warning, do not anger them. That night, every screen in the outer colonies flickered with a new message. A single symbol never seen before, a black claw mark across a white field. Below it, words in perfect common. Hand over the refugees, or your species ends. A timer appeared beneath the message, counting down from 48 hours. The Kh'rathi had made contact. Darkness hung over the solar system like a shroud. For 2 days, the alien refugees had been hidden inside a sealed wing of Ceres Station under heavy guard. They barely spoke. When they did, their voices were thin and cracked, whispering the name of the enemy as if the word itself could summon death. On every human world, news anchors speculated, politicians debated, and ordinary citizens argued in bars and message boards. But nothing prepared them for what happened next. Without warning, every screen across the colonies flickered. Freight ship monitors, government terminals, even children's toys lit up with the same image. A black claw mark slashed across a white field. Under it appeared a line of text in perfect common. Hand over the refugees, or your species ends. Below the words, a timer began to count down from 48 hours. No source signal could be traced. Engineers tried to block it, but the message reappeared every time, overriding everything else. It was as if the solar system itself had been marked. On Ceres Station, Captain Ilara of the ISS Sentinel stood in the command center, fists tight at her sides, watching the timer tick. "They've made their move," she said quietly. Lieutenant Rourke stared at the alien survivors through the observation glass. They were curled up on the floor, eyes closed, rocking as the message played again and again. One raised its head just long enough to whisper, "It begins." Inside the chambers of the United Systems Authority on Geneva Orbital, the debate turned into shouting. Some demanded immediate compliance. "We cannot risk our entire species for strangers," one ambassador argued. Others warned that surrendering the aliens would only show weakness. Admiral Rourke leaned forward, voice like steel. "They've already chosen to test us. Giving in won't save us. It will tell them we are prey." On the net, fear spread faster than any official statement. The black claw mark became a symbol, replicated on shirts, banners, and memes. Some called for evacuation of the outer colonies. Others demanded that humanity fight. A new phrase began trending. "We are not prey." Ava Corrin watched it all from her small comms room on Kepler 92 Drift. Her name had become a headline, the girl who sent the signal. Some praised her, some cursed her. She barely slept. Now the Kh'rathi themselves had spoken, and the timer was running. She replayed the original distress call, hearing again the terrified alien voice, warning of an unstoppable predator. And she wondered if she had started a war. In the frozen black of space beyond Neptune, ships moved. Massive dark-hulled vessels, shaped like knives, slid silently toward the inner system. They bore no lights, no transponders. Only the faint shimmer of their drives betrayed them. Human sensors caught glimpses, then lost them again. Rumors leaked onto the net. The Kh'rathi were already here. On Ceres Station, the alien refugees began to scratch symbols into the walls of their holding cell, curved lines that glowed faintly in the dark. When asked what they meant, one answered, "A map. A warning. Where the first blow will fall." The translator rendered the final phrase as, "You still have time to choose what you are." Hours passed. The timer continued to count down. In war rooms on Earth, Luna, and Mars, hidden fleets were brought out of storage. Drone factories shifted into full production. On Titan, a group of miners refused evacuation and welded armor to their transport ships. The whole species held its breath. At the end of the second day, as the timer ticked below 2 hours, a single enormous vessel appeared on the edge of the solar system near Neptune. It was black and angular, like a shard of obsidian miles long. It did not speak. It simply drifted, blocking the stars. The Kh'rathi were no longer a rumor. They had arrived. In a quiet office on Geneva Orbital, the president of the United Systems Authority stared at the frozen image of the ship on her monitor. "What do they expect us to do?" she asked. Admiral Rourke stood behind her, jaw tight. "They expect us to hand over the refugees, and then they expect us to kneel." She turned to him. "And what do you expect?" His answer was almost a whisper. "I expect humanity to surprise them." Out in space, the great black ship moved closer, its shadow spreading across Neptune's pale blue clouds. The countdown reached 1 hour. No one knew what would happen when it hit 0. The countdown on every screen dropped below 60 minutes. On Ceres Station, people crowded into corridors, staring at the black claw mark and the flickering numbers. No one spoke. Even the alien refugees huddled together in silence, 4 eyes closed as though bracing for impact. Far beyond the station, the Kh'rathi flagship hung over Neptune like a mountain of obsidian. It did not send more messages. It did not make demands. It simply waited, its hull lined with faint red veins that pulsed like a heartbeat. Around it, smaller escort ships drifted like dark sharks, silent and patient. Humanity's leaders had argued all night. Some still begged to hand over the aliens, convinced the Kh'rathi would leave if appeased. Others insisted that surrender would only invite annihilation. In secret, fleets began to move. Patrol ships slipped out of dockyards on Luna. Drone swarms left hidden bunkers under the ice of Europa. Weapons long held in reserve were powered up for the first time in decades. On Ceres Station's main concourse, Captain Ilara of the Sentinel faced a line of journalists behind a security barrier. They shouted questions. Will the refugees be handed over? Is war coming? She gave no answer. Instead, she turned and walked toward the docking bay where the transfer was supposed to take place. In the bay, a single human diplomat waited beside a small shuttle. Face pale but calm, the plan, at least on paper, was simple. Stage a gesture of good faith. One of the alien refugees would be escorted to a neutral asteroid where Kh'rathi representatives could collect them. Cameras from across the solar system were already linked in, ready to broadcast the exchange live. As the shuttle approached the asteroid, the Kh'rathi delegation appeared. 3 towering figures in black armor stepped out of a needle-shaped craft. Their faces were hidden behind smooth masks with slits of red light. The atmosphere shimmered with tension. The human diplomat walked forward with careful steps, carrying no weapon. Behind him, 2 Marines escorted the trembling alien refugee. The entire solar system watched the feed in silence. The timer on every screen reached 30 minutes. Then, without warning, one of the Kh'rathi captains stepped forward and struck the diplomat across the face. The blow was open-handed, but powerful enough to send him sprawling into the dust. His helmet cracked. A thin line of blood streaked his cheek. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. The Marines' hands hovered near their holsters. The alien refugee whimpered. Millions of viewers held their breath. Slowly, the diplomat rose. Blood dripped from his chin. He looked at the Kh'rathi captain and, rather than cower, he smiled. A small, defiant smile that flickered across every screen in the system. He straightened his jacket, wiped the blood away and said, "You've made your point." On Ceres Station, Ava Corrin leaned toward the monitor, heart hammering. She could feel the shift, like air before a storm. On Luna, Admiral Rourke whispered to his staff, "Mark the location. Initiate Cerberus protocol." Hidden weapons all across the system began to power up. Defense grids lit their silent indicators. Stealth drones floated out of shadows, waiting for a command. Back on the asteroid, the Kh'rathi captain sneered behind its mask. It reached for the refugee with a clawed hand. The human Marines stepped between them. One spoke through his helmet speaker, voice steady. "The exchange is cancelled." At that exact second, an unseen signal pulsed through space. Viewers across the solar system saw the feed shake as if hit by static. Then a blinding flash lit the asteroid field. The Kh'rathi needlecraft shuddered, its hull scorched by a pinpoint beam from somewhere far beyond the camera's view. Its shields flickered. The Kh'rathi spun toward the humans, weapons unfolding. They fired first, someone whispered on the Sentinel's bridge. But in truth, no one knew who had fired. A hidden human weapon? A nervous Marine? A Kh'rathi test? The only certainty was that the truce was gone. On the asteroid, the diplomats shouted for everyone to retreat. Marines dragged the alien refugee back toward the shuttle. Kh'rathi weapons spat arcs of blue energy that hissed across the rocks. One beam struck the shuttle's wing, tearing a glowing scar. Return fire erupted from somewhere unseen, slamming into the Kh'rathi craft and sending shards of black armor spinning into space. Across the system, alarms went off. Defense forces snapped to full alert. Civilian nets flashed red warnings. Hashtags changed instantly from "We're not prey" to "First shot fired." Ava watched the chaos on her monitor, numb. In her ear, a new transmission whispered through static, "It has begun." She didn't recognize the voice. The shuttle's engines roared. It lifted off from the asteroid just as a final blast tore a crater where it had stood. The human diplomat looked back once at the Kh'rathi captain, whose mask was cracked, revealing a glimpse of a jagged mouth full of teeth. The alien raised a claw, not in attack, but in what looked like a salute. Then the feed cut out. Silence spread across the solar system. No official statement came. No one knew who had fired the first shot. But every human, from Earth to the edge of the Kuiper Belt, felt the same cold certainty settle over them. The test was over. War had begun. A week had passed since the chaotic firefight on the neutral asteroid. No official statement had been given. The Kh'rathi flagship still hovered near Neptune, like a blade poised to strike, and its escorts prowled the dark lanes of the Kuiper Belt. The ultimatum timer had long since reached zero, yet no all-out attack came. Instead, a strange, tense silence hung over the solar system. Inside that silence, humanity began to move. The episode opens in a dimly lit command cavern deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, a place most citizens didn't even know existed. Cold water pressed against reinforced walls, and the hum of turbines echoed like a heartbeat. At the center stood a ring of admirals and engineers, watching a holographic display of the solar system. Small red triangles marked Kh'rathi ships. Hidden blue icons flickered into view one by one. "This is what they don't see," Admiral Rourke said. His voice carried through the cavern. "They think we're miners and merchants. They think we're prey. But for decades we've been preparing." The camera, or narration, lingers on the hologram as more blue icons bloom. Stealth carriers under the ice of Europa, drone swarms disguised as asteroid mining rigs, railgun batteries embedded in lunar craters. Entire shipyards, long thought to be decommissioned, are revealed as active, churning out sleek, angular warships painted in radar-absorbing black. This is the Cerberus Protocol, a plan hatched generations ago for the day an unstoppable enemy might come. Above, life on the colonies continues as if nothing has changed. Civilians crowd markets and screens, sharing rumors and half-truths. They think the government is dithering. They do not see the submarines rising from trenches, the hidden launch tubes opening in deserts, the survey drones actually unfurling wings of plasma cannons. Only a handful of people across the inner worlds know the truth. Humanity has been hiding its teeth. On Kepler 92 Drift, Ava Corrin sits alone at her console, reading a new encrypted message from an unknown sender. It contains coordinates and a single line: "You're part of it now." She doesn't understand, but she feels the shift in the air. The same way sailors once felt a storm coming before the clouds appeared. Meanwhile, on Ceres Station, Captain Ilara walks the corridors with Lieutenant Rourke. Through observation windows, they can see refugees from dozens of species, staring at human soldiers, drilling with quiet precision. "They don't know what's under our feet," Rourke says. Ilara answers, "They will. Soon enough." Across the solar system, preparations accelerate. Orbital yards over Mars assemble freighters, whose cargo bays are packed with missile racks. Quantum AI cores are awakened from dormancy and linked to defense grids. Small colonies volunteer supplies and crew. Even independent asteroid clans, once hostile to Earth authority, transmit a single message to Central Command: "Tell us where to stand." Word of these movements leaks slowly onto the net. Grainy images of unfamiliar ships docked at hidden ports, whispers of black fleets and ghost yards. At first, people dismiss them as conspiracy theories, but then the hashtags begin. Cerberus. Hidden teeth. Instead of panic, a new mood rises, grim determination. If the Kh'rathi think humans are weak, Let them think it. For now, back near Neptune, Kh'rathi sensors record a small but disturbing pattern. Human transports vanishing from their lanes. Energy spikes under planetary crusts, silent objects following their patrols. They dismiss it as coincidence. Prey cannot hide teeth, they believe. Yet on the bridge of the flagship, a junior officer clicks its mandibles uneasily. They are too quiet, it mutters. Prey does not move like this. The episode builds toward its cliffhanger as Admiral Rourke stands before a wall-sized display deep in the Pacific bunker. A coded alert flashes red. The first phase is complete. He turns to his staff. They wanted a test. We'll give them an answer they'll never forget. Above the bunker, the ocean swirls. Across the solar system, stealth hatches open. Black ships slip from shadows, and drone swarms awaken with a low metallic buzz. Humanity's hidden teeth are no longer sheathed. The prey is preparing to strike. The Kh'rathi flagship still hung over Neptune, black and silent, its escorts prowling like sharks. For days, nothing had moved. Commentators called it a siege without weapons. Civilians in the inner worlds began to breathe again, thinking perhaps war had been avoided. They were wrong. The episode opens with a cold, star-filled view of the Kuiper Belt. Between the slow-turning ice boulders drifts an empty transport marked as a mining barge. Its beacon blinks lazily. Inside, no crew, only a small device counting down from 10. At 0, the hull splits open, releasing a cloud of thumb-sized drones. They unfold silent wings and vanish into the dark, invisible to Kh'rathi sensors. At the same time, on a freighter lane near Titan, a convoy of ore haulers drops out of warp. Instead of ore, they carry railguns and missile pods hidden under false plating. In every system, the secret fleets awakened by the Cerberus protocol move into place. Ava Corrin sits at her console on Kepler 92 drift, watching coded symbols stream across her screen. She understands only fragments, but the message is clear. Phase 2, retaliation. Her hands tremble as she forwards the orders. On Ceres Station, Captain Ilara and Lieutenant Rourke brief their troops. We don't hit their core fleets, Ilara says quietly. We cut the claws first. Eyes, ears, supply lines. Fast and clean. They don't even know we're there. The soldiers nod grimly. Outside the window, refugee aliens watch the preparations with a mix of fear and awe. Then, in the black beyond Neptune, it begins. A Kh'rathi scout ship slides past a region of drifting ice. Its sensors pick up nothing, until a flash like a knife of white light cuts across its hull. The ship vanishes in silence. On the flagship's bridge, alarms shriek. Another scout disappears. Then another. Data streams show their communications cut mid-sentence. Predators, the junior officer whispers again. They move like predators. Across the solar system, hidden human forces strike. Stealth drones jam Kh'rathi relays. Saboteurs inside captured cargo pods, explode reactors at precise moments. Entire patrol groups vanish without a shot fired. Where the Kh'rathi expect docile prey, they find a hunter. The feed shifts to a moon of Uranus, where a Kh'rathi supply base has been established. Just as its commander transmits a status report, the ground heaves. From beneath the ice rises a black-hulled submarine ship, long as a city block. It surfaces, doors open, and spears of blue plasma leap skyward, ripping through the base's shield. The base disappears in a silent blossom of light. Before the Kh'rathi can even respond, the submarine sinks back under the ice, gone like a shadow. On Earth, citizens watch sanitized clips of minor skirmishes on official feeds. But unfiltered footage leaks onto the net. People see Kh'rathi ships burning, human vessels darting between them like wolves around giants. Hashtags change again. Retaliation begins. We are predators. The mood shifts from fear to a fierce, defiant pride. Meanwhile, Ava receives another encrypted whisper. They still don't know what hit them. Hold the signal. The next phase is yours. She looks out at the stars, and for the first time feels not dread, but something else. Momentum. Back near Neptune, the Kh'rathi flagship spins slowly, its red veins flickering faster. It dispatches more escorts, larger and heavier, but each time they move into the belt, they do not return. For the first time since entering Sol, the predators hesitate. In the hidden bunker under the Pacific, Admiral Rourke studies the holographic map as red icons wink out one by one. "Good," he murmurs. "Now they know the first rule of hunting humans. We strike first." The episode closes on a long shot of the solar system from above. Fleets stir like dark currents beneath the planets. Sparks of battle flash at the edge of the map. Humanity's retaliation has begun, and the galaxy is about to learn what happens when humans stop running. The skies over Earth were bright and empty. Cities went about their days as if nothing was wrong. School bells rang. Traffic lights changed. From the ground, you would never know that far above, hundreds of Kh'rathi warships sat just outside visual range. Waiting, inside a mountain beneath Colorado, a massive steel door sealed a cavern bigger than any stadium. Holographic projections of the solar system spun in the air. Around them stood admirals, engineers, and scientists from every major colony. They had been awake for days. This was not another simulation. This was the moment. The hook begins with a single voice over the intercom. Project Aegis is go. Cameras cut to the moon. What looked like ordinary communication dishes fold back like petals, revealing launch silos and railgun barrels. On the ocean, huge cargo ships lift their decks, exposing hidden missile batteries. Under polar ice, submarines turn upward, their bows glowing. Quietly, the largest coordinated strike in human history begins to unfold. Above Neptune, Kh'rathi sensors catch a small spike of energy from Earth. They ignore it, too small to be a threat. Minutes later, they pick up another, then dozens. Their display fills with strange signatures, but before they can react, the first wave of hypersonic projectiles slams into their forward pickets. Entire escort groups vanish in clouds of burning debris. Shock ripples through the alien fleet. On Earth, ordinary citizens still see only normal news feeds. The government hasn't announced anything. Yet on the net, fragments leak. Strange flashes on amateur telescopes, power surges at launch bases, blurred images of dark ships rising from the oceans. People sense something is happening. Fear and pride mix in their chests. Ava Koren sits at her console on Kepler 92 Drift, watching encrypted data spill across her screen. This is Phase 3. The hidden teeth are no longer hidden. Her job is to coordinate civilian convoys, but she knows what's really happening. Earth itself is striking back. Captain Ilara, aboard the Sentinel, listens to the coded countdown. Her crew stands ready. When the hammer falls, she tells them quietly, "We hit where it hurts." In the next instant, the Sentinel and dozens of stealth ships ignite their engines and plunge toward the Kh'rathi rear lines. The battle turns into a pattern of calculated ambushes. Railguns from lunar craters punch holes in enemy shields. Drone swarms disguised as ice shards overload their sensors. Undersea launchers send wave after wave of kinetic missiles screaming into orbit. Each blow is precise, coordinated, and devastating. For the first time since entering Sol, the Kh'rathi lose formation. Their flagship pulls back, trying to regroup. Their captains bark orders that go unanswered as more escorts vanish. The prey has turned hunter. The predators are bleeding. News finally breaks across human channels. Earth has struck back. Grainy footage shows a Kh'rathi dreadnought breaking apart over the blue disk of Neptune. Citizens cheer from Mars domes and asteroid tunnels. Hashtags flood the net. Earth strikes back, marks a turning point, HFY. In a dark war room on the Kh'rathi flagship, officers hiss and click in confusion. One of them stares at a display of vanishing ships. "This is not prey," it whispers. "This is a trap." On Earth, Admiral Rourke watches the hologram of the enemy fleet shrinking. He knows it's only the beginning. The Kh'rathi still outnumber them. Their technology is still deadly, but something has shifted. Morale, momentum, the very shape of the war. He looks to his staff and says the words everyone has been waiting for. "We move to Phase 4. The episode ends on a wide shot of the solar system. Blue and red icons swirl and collide. Hidden bases glow as they fire. Supply lines break. The tide is turning. Humanity, once thought prey, has drawn blood. And now the galaxy is watching Earth strike back. For hours, the stars above Neptune had flickered with light from thousands of weapons. Now suddenly they were still. Wreckage drifted in slow arcs. A silence, heavy and wrong, settled over every comm channel. No one knew if it meant victory or the eye of something much larger. The hook begins with a single image. The Kh'rathi flagship, its black hull cracked and glowing from within, rising out of the shadows. Around it space bends and shimmers. Gravity waves ripple outward like circles in a pond. Instruments across the solar system spike and fail. Scientists on Mars stare at their readouts. "This isn't a weapon," one whispers. "It's a call." On Kepler 92 drift, Ava Corrin clutches her headset. She can hear the sound under the static, deep, pulsing, almost like a heartbeat. The Kh'rathi aren't transmitting words anymore. They're triggering something far older. Admiral Rourke, in his Pacific bunker, looks at the data and says only, "They're summoning it." Across the solar system, every hidden gun falls silent. Even the refugees stop moving. Something vast is coming through, then it arrives. At first it looks like a tear in the stars, a black wound that leaks white fire. Then a shape emerges, neither ship nor creature, but a construct the size of a moon, etched with patterns no human or Kh'rathi can decipher. Gravity storms roll off its surface. Space bends. Tiny asteroids are pulled in and crushed to dust. This is what the original alien distress call had warned about. This is the predator the Kh'rathi feared. The flagship fires at it. The beams vanish before touching its surface. The construct doesn't slow. It keeps moving toward the inner system, ignoring both fleets. For a moment, humans and Kh'rathi do nothing. Old enemies frozen by something bigger than both. Then Captain Ilara's voice cuts across the net. "If we don't stop it together, nothing will." The words echo in thousands of headsets. On the Kh'rathi bridge, a junior officer clicks its mandibles once, then twice, and sends a message. Alliance temporary. Across the net, human and Kh'rathi ships blink acknowledgement. What follows isn't a battle so much as a desperate act. Human stealth drones swarm ahead, lacing the construct with beacon points. Kh'rathi warships project energy nets between them. Railguns fire streams of tungsten rods into weak points found by Ava's analysis. Undersea launchers on Earth fire their last payloads into orbit to be caught and flung by grav catapults. The construct shudders. Its gravity waves spike. Some ships are crushed like paper. Others hold their line. A breach opens along one glowing seam. The Sentinel dives through it, planting a warhead deep inside before tearing away on burning engines. A blinding flash erupts, and for a heartbeat, every star seems to vanish. When the light clears, the construct is gone. Only fragments remain, drifting like ash. The Kh'rathi flagship floats powerless, its red veins dark. Human ships scatter, damaged but alive. Across the net there is no cheering, only stunned silence. They have survived, but at a cost no one can yet count. Ava takes off her headset and looks out at the stars. They seem dimmer now. On the Pacific coast, Admiral Rourke walks out of the bunker into sunlight for the first time in weeks. Around him, ordinary citizens stand in streets staring at the sky, sensing that something huge has passed. On the Kh'rathi bridge, the captain of the flagship lowers its head, mandibles clicking slowly. It transmits a single phrase in halting human speech. "We will." Remember, across the solar system, #shift again. The day the stars shook. Who'd never praise his HFY. The war may not be over, but the galaxy now knows what happens when humans get angry. The final shot is from far above the solar system. Planets circle their sun. Wreckage glitters like dust. And in the deep black beyond, other stars flicker, watching, perhaps waiting. Humanity, scarred but unbroken, has stepped into legend.